What is up, hospitalitarians? This is Kyle from Hospitality MD. We are back with another episode of our podcast presented right here on YouTube. Before we get started, you guys know the drill. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications for this channel, like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. This episode is very special to me. It's with Dr. Jeffrey O. He's the CEO of the International Hospitality Institute, a published author. He's worked with executive level roles in hotel management companies and has also been an on-property leader and general manager. This week, we talk about the philosophy of hospitality, becoming the best version of yourself, the nobility of what we're doing in this industry. And it's honestly one of the best conversations I've ever had in my life. So I know you guys will enjoy it. Check the link in the comments as well. Global Hospitality Summit is coming up and it's presented by the International Hospitality Institute. I'm going to be speaking on November 10th. So check it out, click the comments, and enjoy this video, guys. Dr. Jeffrey O, welcome to the Hospitality MD podcast. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's an honor to be here. I would not have missed this for anything. Kyle, thanks for inviting me. Thanks for the work that you and Greg Fregoso are doing on a daily basis. Very much appreciate that.
Oh, well, certainly. It's definitely my pleasure. And same to you as well. Your advocacy for the industry, which we'll certainly discuss in more detail, is it's certainly game changing, I think, for all of us. Now, one of the questions that I ask every single guest, and I think is the most important question that we ask anybody, is in regards to your enunciation moment into hospitality. For you, I mean, you don't go from front desk agent to CEO and vice president and then start an International Hospitality Institute if you don't have that in your heart somewhere, but that has to come from somewhere. So dig deep, go back as far as you can remember. And if you have a moment or a story or something that connects you to the industry or to hospitality as a whole, love to hear about that.
Yeah, I certainly have such a moment. I wanted to do something that would be meaningful. I wanted to be able to help and help people and put a smile on people's faces and make a difference. I wasn't going to be a doctor in terms of being a medical doctor. I wasn't going to be healing people. I wasn't doing missionary work, traveling to places and providing assistance and education to those who might need it. But I found something that works for me, and that's hospitality. You know, I have a personality where I love people. I love to interact with people. I love to smile and talk to strangers. I'm the guy who's going to walk into a room and try to engage with everyone in the room. That's my personality. So hospitality was a perfect fit for me. And once I stumbled into it, I'd like to say I stumbled into it. That's exactly what happened. I was looking for work, walked into a hotel in Baltimore, Maryland, years and years ago. It was a Marriott property, and interviewed for a front desk agent position. Had never worked in a hotel before. And they hired me, and I fell in love with it. I loved it. It was so much fun. I could not believe I was actually getting paid to do something that was so easy to me. It was like, oh, I love doing this. You guys are actually paying me for this. Well, yeah, I'm going to take the check if you guys are going to pay me to do what I love to do anyway. So that really was it for me. And I worked at that particular property for a couple of years and was able to advance thanks to some mentors that I had, and became a front desk agent, front desk manager at that particular hotel. And then eventually left and went to another property where I became an AGM, and then moved on and GM and COO and all of that eventually. So it's been a fantastic journey, and I certainly would not have had it any differently.
Yeah, this hospitality is certainly an adventure, I think, for everybody. And I think if but you have to make it an adventure too for yourself. You know, it's maybe not going to be adventurous just because you have to embrace that and go on that adventure, which it sounds like you certainly have, and it's still an adventure for you every single day. Now, you mentioned your personality, right? You're very hospitable. You love to talk to people, love to interact with people, love to be welcoming to people. And I think for those who are new to the industry, or even those who have made that vice president or COO, it seems that as you grow in the industry, sometimes you become further and further away from the guests, or further and further away from those raw hospitality roots that were originally why you started doing it in the first place. So I'm curious to know how that was for you, if you felt that, if you've experienced that, and how you remedy that, or just your thoughts and sentiments on that particular topic.
You're absolutely right. I've had, several interviews over the years, and I tell you, that's a question that hasn't really come up, and I'm intrigued and really impressed that you brought that question up. It's not one that people often think about, right? You hear a lot of the usual trajectory type questions. How did you become this? What do you love to do? And all that kind of stuff, which is, great. But this is very different. I appreciate the question. I have actually had those moments where I said to myself, I am not as close to the operation as I once were. I am becoming distant from it, because when you sit in your office, wherever you work, when you get to the C-suite, you tend to be, it's going to happen. You're not going to be as involved in daily operations as you would like to be when it comes to running hospitality properties. I have found myself in that particular position. I remember going to a property while, during my days working in directly in hotels, and I went to visit a property that I was overseeing. And I went to the lobby and stood in the lobby, and I was greeting guests. And I did that a couple of mornings when I was at this particular property. Beautiful property in Los Angeles, one of the nicest properties in the city. And some of the team members of that particular hotel, I'm sure they kind of looked at me like, okay, what is he doing? This is our job. Our job is to welcome guests and offer them stuff and shake their hands and all of that. This guy is sitting in my lobby, and they essentially trying to usurp, sort of take my role. And that's not what it was, right? And they're a great group of people. I absolutely love them. But my point is, I felt a need to be a part of it. I missed what I used to have, which has been at the property level, being able to connect with people, to shake hands and slap bags and do all of that, and give high fives and all of those things I love to do, which benefit me as much as they benefit the guests. The beauty of hospitality is you're getting what you're giving, right? Because when you're being nice to people, and you're being kind to people, and you're being compassionate to people, you feel good inside. You feel good just by doing those things. People don't understand. Some people don't understand that. You do, because you're right in the midst of it. But there are some folks who don't get that. Like, why do you stand there and smile at all these people? Why are you shaking all these people's hands? Why are you welcoming all these people? Well, the simple answer is it makes me feel good. And that's what it is. It reminds me of the story about a bank robber. Someone asked him, why do you rob banks? And he said, well, that's where the money is. And that's what is, I love to do all of those things because it made me feel good.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's when you said it's something that you needed to do, you have to remind yourself and make those opportunities to remember why you do what you do. And, because again, if you're in the C-suite and you're, and it's so maybe disconnected more so than you would like to be, and you have the opportunity to be in a hotel, because I think that's, for me, being inside of a hotel environment is so special. Somebody asked me last week or a couple of weeks ago, after my GM experience didn't work out, they said, will you ever work in a hotel again? And I said, oh my gosh, yes, of course I'm going to work in a hotel again, because that environment is sacred and it's special. Certainly I wouldn't want to go the rest of my life without being in that environment. It's so intimate, close quarters with people. Absolutely. And everything. It's beyond special. So you're in the C-suite, you're maybe becoming a little disconnected. You have these moments where you get to go and interact with the guests. Were there times that you felt like you sold yourself out a little bit, or that you have, because the corporate world is brutal, especially when you're with a management company and you have asset managers and owners and all these different stakeholders that you have to appease, who those people may not care at all about hospitality, because they're not hospitalitarians, they're real estate investors.
That's it.
So tell me a little bit about that and those kind of fights that you've had to have with yourself. And because I think it's just so common that people deal with this as they grow.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I think I'll call that cognitive dissonance, right? I think you will find that at certain levels, when you get to a certain point and you sort of question what you're doing, where you may be doing things that are sort of at odds with what you really want to do, and maybe what you believe. I had a gentleman who said to me, I'm tired of firing people. This was during this, COVID era. He called me, a gentleman who runs a company, C-suite guys. And I'm tired of firing people. I mean, I'm just sick of it. I go home every day and I'm completely exhausted. I'm worn out because I have changed so many lives, not in a positive fashion. Because I am the Grim Reaper. I'm the guy who shows up to say, I'm sorry, going to have to let you go. And I just don't want to do that anymore. I'm doing it because I have to make a living, but I don't want to do it anymore. So I think a lot of us grapple with similar situations. When you get to a certain position, you're reporting to people who've got interests that are competing interests that may even be across purposes. They may not match what you're trying to do. They may be trying to zig while you're trying to zag. So you sort of have to find a way to make things work. And there are times it's very difficult. I think your experience is one that, to me, it's a learning experience. I learn from your experience, and I'm looking forward to the series you're going to put out. I can't wait for that. And the way you've got them structured, the first episode is going to be dedicated to this. Second episode is going to be dedicated to that. I really love that. What I love is your ability to take a situation, dissect it, do a postmortem on it, and get some useful takeaways from it. We have to be able to learn. And how are we going to learn if we don't learn from our own experiences? And that's what you're going to do. And that's what you're going to teach me. When I watch that, I'm going to be able to take away something from it. And your listeners are going to be able to take something away from it that they can apply to their own lives as well. That introspection is powerful. And not everyone is able to do that. Some people can't do that. They want to think, they don't want to look inward, because inward is messy. Inward at times is saying, listen, maybe I could have done something a little bit differently. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. It's not just what the external world does to us. At times it's what we do to the world around us. And we can learn from all of that, good or bad, but it's messy, right? And at times we don't want to confront that. So I am looking forward to seeing this series. I think it's going to be powerful, and it's going to be a learning experience for me and for any folks who watch your show.
Well, I really appreciate that. And, you say looking inward is messy, and I got chills as you mentioned that, because it is very, very messy. Yes. And it's when you really take a good look at yourself, especially after an experience that could be classified as a failure or something that, didn't work out the way you wanted it to. It's easy to say, I had no control over this situation. And sometimes that's the case. But you also have to look and it's when you look in the mirror, sometimes you look ugly, or sometimes you, and even just to be able to learn about it, it's critical, I think, because if I wasn't doing that, then I could be in a situation where I say, I never want to work in a hotel again because I'm ruined by this experience. But it's never over, right? You don't have to be ruined by a negative experience. My mentor, Craig Poole, he would just tell me this: don't use the word failure, just use the word learning opportunity. And I agree. And that's why I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to learn myself, and I'm better now than I ever have been as a result of this. And I'm going to help others learn something. And even for you to say that you're going to learn something.
No, absolutely.
I mean, that's great. That means a lot to me in and of itself.
That's a fact. Nelson Mandela, you just referenced your mentor, and Nelson Mandela had a similar saying. He said, I don't fail. When I don't win, I learn. And that, to me, is a classic line. We frame failure around because we think, and that's what the world is going to think of us. But that's got nothing. You went there, you put in your best, you learn a lot from it. And those lessons you're going to apply to whatever you do next. And that's the power of life. That's just what it is.
So tell me about we could either say failure, or let's say something that you didn't win, but you learned from. Tell me about something that happened to you in your career. that has kind of, it's helped you learn?
I've had a lot of failures in my life, a lot of them. And I think as someone who's a leader, leaders like us in our space, in the things that we do. When I say leader, you don't have to be leading a company to be a leader. When you've got an audience that pays attention to what you say and what you do, you're leading. And we all are leaders in our own way, So I have had some catastrophic failures, right? Let me put it that way. I've had things that I went into and I thought, this is absolutely going to work. This is absolutely going to work. And then it didn't pan out. And I've had so many. But I would tell you about one that happened to me years and years ago. And I had some, colleagues, some partners of mine, and we decided to get into a particular business venture. We had a great business plan, or we thought it was a great business plan. We did all the right things. We did our homework, or so we thought. We thought we were really ready for the marketplace. And we did all of those things, and then, tried to get this deal off the ground. We put all kinds of effort behind it, put a lot of effort, trying to get this done. We could not find any success. And he was just, to me, it was jarring. It was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening to me. Because prior to that, it'd been, it's been just smooth runway. It's been great, right? Everything I had, so I hitting home runs all day long. My career, I moved very fast. I mean, I went from being a front desk agent to being a front desk manager in 2 years. I went from being a front desk manager to being an AGM within, I had that role like in a year and I was an AGM. So trajectory for me, career-wise, I've been very fast. So I expected things to come quickly for me. Everything was going to happen fast. When I ran into this situation with my partners back then, it just did not work out. And it wasn't for lack of trying. I did everything I could. I pulled out every trick out of the proverbial bag and nothing was working for me. And I'll go home at night. I was stressed out. I couldn't sleep. And I found myself heading to a pharmacy to get, they have all this, Somnex or some sleeping pills that you buy, over the counter. I went into like a CVS or Walgreens, and I could not sleep. I found myself drinking more alcohol than I'd ever drank in my life, because I was stressed out. And I said, oh my God, I saw failure. What I saw is failure looming above me, confronting me. And it stressed me out like you can't believe. I couldn't sleep. I was drinking way more than I needed to drink. I was stressed out. I was just a complete mess. And eventually I had to pull myself together. And I tell you, it took me a while to recover from that. What I learned is that in life, you have to be prepared to failure. I have a saying, a quote from one of my books, where I wrote that if you want to marry success, you must be prepared to date failure. It comes with the territory. I mean, that's the whole point. If you want this, you have to get through this path. And it's like someone talked about Michael Jordan, hitting so many baskets. He doesn't hit every basket that he's going to, shoot the ball. He's going to miss many. He's going to hit someone. He's going to miss some. It's a part of life. But I think at times we don't quite process that. We think, we look at things as being, we failed, when in fact we went through a bump, went through a situation where things did not work out. We just have to get ourselves back together and get back on our feet. Really, it's all about thinking how we process things. That's what it all boils down to, That's what it all boils down to.
Yeah, seriously, chills once again. If you want to marry success, you have to date failure. Yes. Wow, that's you. That's your.
I've got a few quotes like that in one of my books, The Word According to Jeffrey Howe, and Get Rich, Get Happy, Get Love. Both of those books have got a lot of inspiration. I quote things along those lines, but it's true, and that's what it is. There's just no way to get around it. If you want to marry success, you have to be prepared to date failure. And if you can't do that, then you're not ready. You're not ready.
Well, that's highly insightful. I love that. Helps me get better, and I'm guarantee that our audience is really going to resonate with that as well. And to know that somebody of your success now, because when people look at somebody successful, you may not be advertising your failures. You may not be saying, oh, I was drinking too much at one point in my life. I couldn't sleep. I was crumbling. I was deteriorating. Tell me about the time, because like you went on this down this dark path for a little while. Was there a certain like light bulb moment or a click where you're like, I can't do this anymore? Because like, I think some people find themselves in the abyss, lost. And then it's, how do you make that switch to actually come back from it? Many people will never come back. So how can they do that?
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned the word abyss. I love that, and that sums it up. That's exactly where I was, and I think you have to find your. I don't say find your why. That's so commonly. It's at first it's
Sure.
used so much. It's almost become trite and really, I want to say that you have to find what makes you go on. What is your anchor to your life? For me, it was my family because you have to find that. What is it? Is it a parent? Is it your girlfriend? Is it your boyfriend? Is it your wife? Is it your child? Is it your what you feel is your calling in life? You have to find it and hold on to it for dear life. It's like someone who's in the water. You're trying not to drown. You're holding on to this boat, this raft, and you don't want to let go because if you let go, you're going to go down. So find that raft. What is your raft? For me, my raft is my family. I was out there in the choppy waters, storms around me raging, tossed all around in the water and about to go under. And it was this raft. And the raft I held on to was my family. I refused to let go. I knew I had to fight. And the only thing that gave me the motivation to persevere and push forward was my family. There was nothing else. And I held on for dear life. I said, I'm not going to go down. I'm not going to let them down. I'm going to hang in. I'm going to give it a bloody good fight. And that's ultimately what did it for me. And I emerged from that and said, listen, I know I failed, but I'm going to do better. Things are going to improve for me. I'm not going to quit. There's no quit in me. I've got a family to look out for. I don't have the luxury of sitting around feeling sorry for myself. I can't do that. So I have to push forward. And ultimately, that's what did it for me. It was my family that rescued me.
That's so powerful. And I think the word why, I think we can I think we can use that. I think it was Nietzsche. He said,
Mhm.
a man who has a why can withstand any how.
Mhm.
And I think that when I hear your story, I think of that. And I also think of I just recently finished a book by Dr. Jordan Peterson, 12 Rules for Life. And one of the things he said is that do what is meaningful, not what is expedient. And happiness, a lot of people say, find happiness. And he says, well, no, you shouldn't be looking for happiness because happiness is a temporary emotion, and it can be. You can find happiness in alcohol. You can find happiness in that those sort of destructive or self-indulgent behaviors. When you have prolonged meaning and you have your eyes set on that aim, whether that's your family or your calling in life, you can trudge through whatever life throws at you. And yeah, maybe you'll slow down or you'll be, down for a little while, but you can still overcome it. And I think, between your situation and Nietzsche and Dr. Jordan Peterson, all these smart people, everybody's telling us this is what we should be doing. So there's some real truth to that.
I love the fact that you mentioned Nietzsche. I mean, I read Nietzsche back. I think I was probably 14 years old when I first read his work, and fascinating character. Obviously, you read his story and all of that, and there's a lot to be learned from him. And I learned a lot from him. He famously wrote that when you stare into the abyss stares right back at you, right? I mean, he talked about that. He talked about the concept of the Uberman and all of that. So what you're saying is true. I love the idea of finding your why. I think there's a lot of that is commonly used, right? And I get it. I get the concept behind it. I just think at times some of it is used in a way that may not be the original aims of people who put up the concept of finding your why. But it's true. It's absolutely true. And Nietzsche and a lot of people writing about that, they're absolutely right on. You have to find a purpose. For me, it's legacy. What is your legacy to this world? How are you going to make a dent on the universe like Steve Jobs wrote? I mean, what is your legacy? If you find what your legacy will be, if you say, this is the mark I'm going to make on this planet, once you identify what that's going to be, it makes it easier to figure out what path you're going to follow. What is your calling? What do you want to do? What do you want to be remembered for? What is your legacy? What are you going to leave this world? And one of the most famous quotes that I love, it resonates with me. It says, you should be ashamed to die unless you've done something good for humanity. This is a quote that's by an American educator, Horace Mann. I've read a lot of books in my life, but I've never seen a quote that's hit me as powerfully as that by this American educator, Horace Mann. You should be ashamed to die unless you've done something good for humanity.
Wow. Yeah, that resonates with me as well. Chills down my spine yet again in this interview on Hospitality MD today.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what it, I mean, is that's the meaning of life, right? That's it. And I think it's something for people to understand, like for you now, like your legacy, you're building it. I mean, it's already there. You have an organization that is, I mean, you put out the first code of ethics for this, for one of the most major industries on the planet globally, for the first time ever, that people can look at and will help the daily living experiences of hundreds of thousands of millions of people, you know, if it's applied to. And that takes a lot of thought, work, reflection, to put something out like that out there into the universe, among the other things that you're doing. So I guess we'll use that as a little bit of a segue here. So your legacy now is International Hospitality Institute. Tell me the enunciation moment for that, how you, because I mean, I don't know anybody else who started an organization such as that. Tell me about that, and what do you do?
Yeah. You know, I worked in the industry for so many years, and I wanted to find a way to give back. I love teaching. I think teaching is a noble profession. There are some professions that I consider to be noble. Obviously, medicine is one where you're healing people, and people doing ministry work who are ministering to souls and giving spiritual guidance. I think that's a noble profession as well. Nursing, obviously, is part of the medical field. What we do, bringing smiles to people, you know, delivering smiles to people on a daily basis in hospitality, I think is a noble profession. Teaching is a noble profession. So I wanted to be able to pivot slightly away from being in the C-suite. Well, I'm still in the C-suite, but being in the corporate world where I oversaw hotels and oversaw hotel developments and acquisitions and operations and all of that, to do something that involved more about teaching. And so for me, that's really important, right? It's not just about accumulating money. It's not a case of whoever dies with the most toys wins. I don't see life through that prism. I want to make a difference. I want to live a life that has meaning. And if I can't find meaning in my life, then it'd be very difficult to go on. So for me, I wanted to just do something that really touches me and that's going to allow me to touch people. And that's how AHI came about. So I've been very, very fortunate. I've got a great team. We've got great partnerships globally, all over the world. We've got a presence in multiple countries and a massive community. And we're doing things that involve giving back. And you mentioned the GHS, sort of preface that during your preface, you know, GHS is for us. We're sponsoring an event to give back. We're doing an event as a free event for the hospitality industry. And I've had people say to me, I can't believe you guys are not charging for it. No, we're not charging for it. We're going to pay for the expense of the event because we think it's important to put forth, to have an event such as this that's going to bring people from different fields, people who are hospitality thought leaders all over the globe, like you know, have them all come together and share ideas and exchange information with the global industry. And it's so critically important. So we think it's something that's meaningful that needs to be done. So IHI is involved not only in training and certification, obviously, we're involved in advocacy work. You mentioned the H Code, the Hospitality Code of Ethics, which, like you rightly mentioned, our industry did not have one, which is shocking to imagine that an industry as vast as ours did not have a code of conduct that's universal to the industry. Is pretty stunning. So we put one together, and it's something we're very proud of. It's free. We don't charge anyone to use it. We encourage companies to incorporate that into their handbooks, to talk about that and share that with their staff members. It's really important. It talks about things that are really very important. You talk about diversity. You talk about respecting people, you know, treating people with respect and dignity. You talk about fair pay, competitive wage standards. You talk about focusing on training your employees and giving them the opportunity to move up in their careers. Things that are important to you and I, and the vast majority of the folks in our industry. That's what the H Code is all about. So we have that out there. We also have the top 50 recognition, which you mentioned. You're part of the top 50 most influential influencers in the USA. We put that out in May of this year. The next one is going to come out in May of 2022. Looking forward to that. We've got the one for the USA, and we also have the HPI hospitality power index for global. We've got the global and we've got the US. So congratulations on being featured in the HPI for the US. It's certainly well-deserved recognition. Your work is amazing, what you do on a daily basis, putting out a ton of information. Please keep doing what you're doing, and we're glad to be a partner with you in your work.
Oh, certainly is, as it's a giant honor for me as well. So I have a question for you on something you said. You talked about these noble professions.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that the work you were doing in a corporate office of a hotel management company was a noble profession?
I felt it was an important job. I felt it was important because I felt that, when you are a stakeholder in an organization, when you take on a job to work for a company, the company is paying you to do a job. You have to give them 100%, right? You have to respect the fact that you have a job and the company trusts you, as in trusting you with a portfolio. I oversaw a portfolio that was a massive portfolio. I mean, easily, over $200 million a year in annual revenue. So it's a massive trust. It's a lot of trust that the company put on me. And I'm very grateful and humbled to have been given that opportunity. So I enjoyed the job. I enjoyed what I did. I really loved it. Met a lot of great people. It just came to a time that I wanted to pivot to something a little bit different, like you and I talked about earlier. And I found myself being drawn into the space of wanting to be involved in the teaching side, the educational side, and all of that. So that's really what my story has been.
Yeah, definitely. And I also think that is hugely, that sentiment is hugely valuable for anybody listening, or anybody who feels like, oh my gosh, well, I'm not a top 50 hospitality influencer, or, all I'm doing is, I'm just a banquet server, or I'm just a front desk agent, or I'm just a housekeeping supervisor. There is certainly a huge nobility in taking responsibility for what you have on your plate. And if what you have on your plate is that you're a housekeeping supervisor for a hotel, and maybe you don't have an audience of people online who are following you. Maybe you don't have, a global reach and advocacy for the industry, or for anything for that matter, but you have a sphere of influence of people that you are responsible for on a daily basis, and the way that you interact with them is a ripple effect on those people, their families, your community as a whole, just for having the nobility to accept your responsibility and to execute it with, grace and courage and to do your job. So I loved your response, because you could have easily said, no, there was no nobility in what I was doing. I was just a pawn for the owners, and I had to make these tough calls. But no, you had a huge responsibility for people who took an immense risk in investing in hospitality assets to employ people, to be a center of influence for the community that the hotel was in, to allow people to gather, to stay, to have refuge, to be safe when they're traveling away from home. That's certainly very, very, very noble.
And great company. I mean, the company that I, worked for different companies. The last company I worked for treated me very, very well. They took great care of me, gave me ample opportunities to do the things that I wanted to do. It was an honor to work for them, and not just them, the companies I worked for prior to that. So I've been very blessed, for someone to entrust you with an asset base that's probably $1 billion, doing, probably $250 million a year. They have to believe in you. They have to have faith in your judgment. And I was very honored and thankful that they gave me that opportunity. It doesn't mean I didn't have difficult moments in doing the job, because I certainly did. It doesn't mean I didn't make poor decisions while doing the job, because I certainly did. But overall, I think I came away from it very thankful and grateful for the experience, and looking forward. So really just a great experience all around.
Yeah, and definitely noble. And now you have it started climbing your second mountain, if you will. And if you haven't read the book Second Mountain by David Brooks,
I haven't seen that. Is that David Brooks, the journalist?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
I think he was a columnist for the New York Times.
Yes, definitely one. I've read several of his articles. I haven't read the book in question.
Yeah, I'll actually I'll send you a copy of the book.
Oh,
so
lovely!
You can read
Wow,
it. Well, I think you will appreciate the book, and I think it'll resonate with you. It talks about your first mountain that you climb in life is can be very ego-centered, so to speak. You're climbing that ladder, you want to make it to a certain point. And then you go into the abyss. That's the second, that's the valley. He calls it the valley. You go into the valley, and when you come out of it, you come out and you start climbing your second mountain, which is usually a mountain that's focused on interdependence rather than independence. And it's more so about serving others than it is about your own interests. And you'll love the book. I'll send it to you. But it sounds like you certainly have started climbing your second mountain. International Hospitality Institute seriously, between your code of conduct, all of your certifications, how meaningful, right? For somebody who, again, we talk about that person who their legacy at the time is a housekeeping supervisor, a front office manager. Maybe they feel like they're not changing the world, but to be able to educate that person and give them a little bit more self-esteem, that's so meaningful. Tell me a little bit about those certifications, how people enjoy that. I love that.
I agree. I love what you just said about being able to help people who have positions that they're working in where they may not think that their work counts, find meaning. It reminds me of the story of people some workers who are building, they're out there working, building, right? Like in a construction site. And the guy walks up to them and asks them an obvious question. What are you guys doing, right? Question that has an obvious answer. And the guy said, well, I'm laying bricks. I'm laying down the bricks. The other guy said, oh, I'm mixing the concrete. Oh, okay, I'm moving the wood. And the guy said to them, no. Your answer is incorrect. What you guys are doing is building a cathedral. You're not just laying bricks. You're not just moving wood. You're not just pouring concrete. You're building a cathedral. So you're part of something that's bigger than you. You're part of the big picture, something that's bigger than you or even framing at this time. And that's what folks in that position you mentioned have to remember. You're not just a cog in the wheel. You're not just a guy, just working without recognition. You're someone who is part of something that's larger than you. You're making a difference. As a housekeeper, when you clean a room, you're putting smiles on people's faces. When they come into that room and they have a great stay, you're making a difference. When the housekeeper walks past a guest in the hallway and says, good morning, good afternoon, they're putting a smile on that guest's face. When the front desk agent checks in the family of 3 or 4 and has a positive attitude while welcoming them, they're making a difference. So in our little way, we can all make a difference. We can all make a difference in our little way. We don't have to find a cure for cancer to make a difference. We don't have to end world hunger to make a difference. No, we can all make a difference in our own little way, just by taking time to be compassionate to other human beings, to recognize them, to smile at them, to say, oh, I love that suit you're wearing. I love that tie. That's a nice hat you've got on. Wow, little things make a difference. So that's really something I think is critically important.
Yeah, and that's a sentiment that I love to reinforce while training people, because training and teaching is something that I love to do as well. And I always I sort of over dramatize the hotel a little bit, but in a way that's still very true, because what I tell people is people are coming here and they are naked, they're sleeping, and they're unconscious to what's going on around them. Sure. They are eating and bathing and doing all these things to sustain life in a place that they're unfamiliar with. And in what other area do you have that opportunity, that sacred opportunity to relieve somebody's anxiety when they're at their most vulnerable state? And every person who plays a role in that, even if you're a line cook in a hotel restaurant or any restaurant for that matter, cooking somebody a healthy meal that allows them energy to go about and do the business that they're doing, or to have the energy to show their family a good time and not get them sick, is like, wow, like you're doing something so awesome by doing that. Yes. And that's really what we have to realize in the hospitality industry. And I think that's one of this is going to be a little bit of a precursor to what I plan to discuss on my panel at GHS. when the topic being millennial and Gen Z, rethinking leadership in the era of COVID. When we look, and I'm 24, so I'm a Gen Z, and I understand when we talk to people, or we go online and we kind of see a crystal ball into the minds of young people, I feel that we see a lot of existentialism, especially with what's going on in the world, and a lot of nihilism. There's no meaning. What's the point? You know, we have a global pandemic. We have what's going on in Afghanistan. We have world hunger. We have all these tragedies taking place in the world. So I don't want to go and slave away for a corporation who's making money off of my labor, and there's no meaning. That's what people think. And that's why there's a hiring crisis, especially with young people. So when we associate true meaning with what we're doing, which is very, very significant in the hotel industry, just like we talked about, I really do think that that is how we save the industry from and make it a place that young people, and people of all ages, quite frankly, want to come and work in, so it can be prosperous for a long time. But of course, in order to do that, we have to ensure that the owners of the hotels, who maybe they just view themselves as real estate investors, understand that they are in possession of one of the most critical assets of the social fabric of any community. So of course we do that on the employee side, but we also need to really make sure that these real estate investors know what the hell they're doing and how important it is that they're doing what they're doing.
So true. So true. I agree. I think if it's just a money-making exercise, then a lot of people are not going to subscribe to it. They're not going to buy into it. Even if they buy into it, they're not going to buy into it for the long term. So we need to make people have a sense of purpose, a sense of high calling. They're doing this because it counts. People want to do work that counts, work that has meaning, work that counts. That's what they're looking for. If it's simply to punch the clock and come in and run on that treadmill, 9 hours a day, 8 hours a day, and then come back and do the same thing, and at some point people are going to say, why am I doing this? There's going to be an existential crisis. Why am I doing this? Is this what I'm going to do with the rest of my life? No, I don't want to do this anymore. So you're going to find that. So our challenge, our mission, our mandate as hospitalitarians is to help people find meaning in their work, in the work of hospitality. It's a beautiful industry. It's a great industry. It's a noble industry. We're doing important work. We're doing work that's not necessarily easy because we're open 24 hours a day. We have to find a way to let people know that our work counts. And there are many options that we can offer to them. Training is very important. You asked about IHI certification and training programs. We've got a ton of certification programs. We've got all kinds of certifications in different departmental certification, gerrymatic certification, certified training expert, certified hospitality expert. We've got all kinds, different programs that will really help people empower themselves and put themselves in a different position. We encourage employers to put their money where their mouth is. Invest in your team members. Bill Marriott talked about that, right? When you take care of your associates, they're going to take good care of your guests, right? And that's really important. I think a lot of companies need to invest more in training. If you show an employee a path to the future and say, listen, I am going to provide this training to you, and in 2-3 years from now, you're going to be able to become an F&B manager, an assistant general manager, a general manager. Chances are you're going to have a better chance at retaining that employee. But we have to actually invest in training. And there are many companies that don't, unfortunately, invest in training as much as they should. And there are many companies that do a terrific job of investing in training. So we need to make sure as employers that we are investing in our employees, encouraging them to seek training and advancement opportunities. And I think it's really important to do that. So IHI focuses quite a bit on certifications and training. That's not all we do, but we focus quite a bit on that. We think it's important.
Well, and I've seen just, from social media and people who have received certifications from IHI, and you can see as they're presenting this certificate to their LinkedIn community or wherever they're posting it, that there's essentially saying like, look how proud I am of myself for doing this. I am better now because of this certificate than I was. I am more valuable now than I was before. And again, that self-esteem is critical. And now they see, wow, I can pair this with my practical work experience, and I see a little bit of that confusion that I may have had about my role or about how to get to the next role has been alleviated a little bit. Because I think that's where, people get lost in like, okay, because a hotel is a very if it's a good hotel, at least it's a very routine environment for most
Yes.
people.
Yes.
We have systems in place that make it so that every day you can expect to be doing a certain thing. You know, obviously there's variation and that's what makes hospitality great, but good hotels should be pretty much systemized and be able to run on their own. And then people get lost in that system. They say, well, now, you know, how do I get out of this and get to the next step? And I think those certifications certainly are a way for people to do that. So GHS, free.
Free, absolutely free, yes.
So this is the largest hospitality event of the year, correct?
It is, by far, yes, it is. Because you've got folks coming in from different parts of the globe. I mean, it's not just the US. The US obviously is a massive, marketplace, if you want to call it that, in terms of our industry. You've got lots of employees here, lots of employees here. But this is global. You've got folks coming in from every part of the globe. You've got a massive amount of promotion that's been done to really showcase the event to people who don't already know it. I think just about everyone in our industry has heard about GHS, and we're just getting started, so to speak. So you're going to keep hearing a lot about GHS. You've got Mr. Horseshoes, the gentleman who co-founded the Ritz-Carlton brand. He's going to be the keynote speaker at the event. And we're just very happy to have him delivering the keynote. He's a legend in our industry. I think anyone knows of him for his incredible work that he's done for our industry, and he's still doing the work. And that's what's amazing. You know, this is a gentleman who could easily go off into retirement and say, "Okay, I'm done with the industry. I've done my bit. I don't have to do anymore." But he's still taking the time out of his day, to give of himself. And if that's not the spirit of hospitality, I don't know what is. He's truly a remarkable man. So we've got a lot of other amazing folks like yourself, and too many to name on your show because we don't have enough time, who are going to be there. But these are really the top hospitalitarians, folks who are top leaders in their fields, who are highly respected in what they do. I mean, they're coming out from different parts of the world to share some insights with the global hospitality industry. And November 9th and November 10th of 2021, free, virtual, and we expect to see everyone who can find time to make the event to attend.
You know, I really think that hotels should honestly put this on in the break room of their hotels on the TV, stream this to the break room, or make it, an employee rally, have it, make the keynote, make one of the topics that's impacting their hotel the most, get the executive committee to come down and gather and watch this, and then dissect and talk about their views on what was discussed and formulate their own opinions. This is a great opportunity for on property, for people who are working those days to have some stimulation. And we talk about investing in training. This is free training. Literally, like, just let this roll for 2 days in the break room, for God's sakes. And let people come and go and stop in, post the schedule, and maybe people will schedule their break around a topic that interests them the most. I think all hotels should be putting this, giving their employees the opportunity to attend and to advertise this, because there's nothing else that's free that's like this, with this volume of speakers, with a global reach. Because that's another thing too, for people who live in the US, but also in other countries. This is not the hotel industry in this little bubble that we're in. The hotel industry is a global industry, as we know. We can benefit. I'm looking forward to learning from a lot of the international folks as well about what's going on in their situation. So I think bottom line is this is going to be a great conference. It's selfless what you guys are doing, putting this out there for everybody. I'm excited to be participating in it. Hospitality MD is excited to be a media partner and present our conversation with you to the world. So Jeffrey, I just thank you so much for being here with us. Actually, I need to ask you one last question. What is your real name, my friend? I need to know the answer to this question, because I really will say, man, there's a little bit of like a mystery. I'm like, Dr. Jeffrey O, like, who is this guy? It's
Yeah,
like
that question comes up quite often. I had a magazine feature that came out, I think it was last week, and the question came up. So someone said it's like a name from a James Bond movie, Jeffrey O. So
that's right.
what is your
Exactly.
last name? My last name is actually Obomeji. Obomeji, 4 syllables. And I think some folks, when I started working in the industry, they could not pronounce my last name. So they just call me Jeffrey O because it's so much easier than Jeffrey Obomeji. It was actually Obomeji. So that's the genesis of Jeffrey O. So great question.
Okay, well that does make a lot of sense. You know, it would probably take me a few tries to get it right too. So okay, so we'll definitely stick with Dr. Jeffrey O then.
Kyle, I tell you, it's been an amazing interview. You're incredibly well read for someone, 24 years old. It's just amazing. I mean, at 24, I'm pretty sure I didn't have close to the achievement that you have now. Just really remarkable. So incredibly well read. The things that you're interested in, highly intellectual things you're interested in, the kind of things that more people should be interested in. And it's amazing. I had an interview with a couple of interviews this past week, and someone asked me about Gen Z. I don't know how much time we have, but I'll try to be very quick.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And we sort of generalize about Gen Z and millennials and all of that. I said, listen, there are some millennials who really, they're not looking for the quick sound bites. We're not looking for the one-liner, who are actually cerebral in a lot of them, a ton of them. So it's not only about video games and the fast stuff. And I said, that's really generalizing a bit much and assuming things that are not necessarily the case. So you certainly explode that idea that people who are millennials may not be that interested in reading. That's not textbook. That's not college material. That's not prescribed reading. You certainly show that, and it makes you who you are as a person. And I also love your vulnerability, your ability to share what's happened to you to the world, and not go sit in a corner and feel sorry for yourself and say, "Listen, I tried this gig, it didn't work out for me. These are the lessons I learned from it." So, vulnerability is the hallmark of a great leader. If you can't look inward, because inward is messy, like I like to say, then it's going to be very difficult for one to achieve the kind of things that one aspires to achieve. So you're able to look inward and take a really hard look at yourself. And that's the key for great leaders. And being vulnerable and share what you've learned with the world. So thank you for doing that.
Well, I really appreciate that. Seriously, it means a lot to me. And, I always think to myself, if I were to teach a course somewhere, I would want to teach a philosophy of hospitality course because I just love the topic. And, I could talk about, we could ponder just ideas all day long, man. I love talking to you. So thanks for I'm walking away feeling mentally stimulated today. I'm in a great mood now. You've really re-energized me. I can't wait to share this with our audience. So Dr. Jeffrey O, thank you so much for your contributions to hospitality. Thank you for your time. Thank you for making me better. And for everybody listening, take a look at the show notes. We're going to have the links to Dr. Jeffrey O's books in the description, the link to register for the GHS conference. We're going to have the International Hospitality Institute website. We're going to have his LinkedIn profile. Everything that you need to know to stay connected will be accessible in the description. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you next time. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed it, be sure to subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. And let me know what your biggest takeaway was from this interview. Just a reminder, Global Hospitality Summit is right around the corner. So check the description to get tickets and hear me and Dr. Jeffrey O speak. We love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you on another episode of Hospitality MD.